Well, I will start. We Endless Journey is a newer company in the Omaha area. We moved into our offices November of 2016, saw our first client in February of 17, and really have been out in the community since April. Um, we have over 100 years of hospice experience, though, on our staff. I've been doing hospice for now it's 13 years. And really, the whole purpose of Endless Journey and starting the hospice in this area was because we felt like some things were not being utilized. And that was some of the holistic choices. And we felt that hospice, when I moved here, I felt like hospice in this area kind of had a really bad stigma. And people viewed it as you went on hospice and you died right away. Where I came from, we took care of 30, 40, 50-year-olds with cancer. You don't see that a lot here. We had a lot of ALS clients. We didn't really see that a lot here when we came on into the area. And then we actually partnered with the ALS Foundation, and we started to get a lot of referrals, and we were excited so that we could introduce some of our holistic choices and treatments and options to those clients. And we've seen a lot of great things happen. So Sherry can talk about that, but I'll go back and just say that, since we've been doing this and we've been taking on ALS clients and learning more about that and the questions that have come up, one of the main questions was when you guys go through like clinic and stuff, whether it's the caretaker that's going with the patient that hasn't or the client themselves, they kind of get this stigma that they have to reach a certain point before they can be considered for hospice services. That used to be true, and now Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurances are looking at that much differently. So because the diagnosis itself is terminal, and because there is no cure, they kind of view it as like a stage 4 cancer. And so before, you used to have, there was basically like statistics as far as like your O2 levels and your functionality and what you could do, okay? But then they kind of realized that each person was different and the disease is different in everybody and it progresses differently and everybody has different side effects, and some people require oxygen or want it, some people don't, some people want the feeding tube, some people don't. And really today, to answer just some broad questions about that, we do take clients that have feeding tubes. If we take a client that does not have a feeding tube, they can have one placed. We can take a client that has a trilogy, even if they don't want a trilogy, that's okay. Anything that they would want or need, we're okay with. Hospice in general, so it's not just us, it's everybody, covers everything. So we cover all of the equipment that you would supply or that you would need from the different supplier that you get now. We would take that over and cover that. Any supplies that you might need for your house. And then if you needed additional caretakers and stuff, that's why we have Erica, and she's going to go into what they do, working with the families and stuff, making sure that you can get that. So the purpose of our hospice is to get on earlier so that we build that relationship. We have that communication, you learn your nurse, and we get to help you sooner because functionality can change. And really, it's a case-by-case basis on who's appropriate in that time and who's not appropriate. We've had a lot of clients that came on service that were told that they were only going to live a couple months, and they stayed on service for over a year. So it just depends on, who the physician that we're working with. We have a medical director ourselves, and she will sometimes take over the care. It's up to you guys. And then she can also go out to your homes, or if you're at a facility or wherever you're at, and see you. So you always have a physician. We treat everything. So if you were to get sick, if you had a UTI, if you had pneumonia, if you needed anything, we treat all of that. So that was another thing that we wanted to change with the hospice and the stigma, is that just because you're on hospice services, most of the time at the very beginning, you're on it because you need added support. And then we are there to walk you through the rest of your journey. We have nurses that specialize in this disease process, myself being one of them. So we know a lot about the equipment that needs to be used, and we know a lot about the disease process and what to expect so that we can educate you. We also encourage that if you're going to the clinic and you want to go to the clinic, the ALS clinic, we encourage that you still do that. We keep in touch with all of the physicians that we work with, and anybody that you were working with before, we can do all that. But the reality is that there's still some things that we don't know about the disease process. We're learning every day, I think, the medical community. And there are some medications that are experimental. We do take ALS clients. There are some that we will still cover if you want to be on our services. And I think that there are some that you bill for the different insurances on that. So I can't tell you exactly which ones they are, but most of the medications that you're on now, Endless Journey covers as well. So do you want to talk about the holistic stuff?
Sure. Did you, Emily, did you receive that email I sent you with the list of the holistic services we provide?
I did, and I was going to share those afterwards as soon as I knew who was here.
Okay, yeah, not a problem. So there is a email, there's a list that she will send to all of you. It includes, I believe there's 23 different holistic services that we provide. Again, this is nothing that you pay for. This is covered by our nonprofit part of the company. Hello. So, and just, again, when you get the list, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. There's a phone number on there that you can reach me. But just to cover a few, acupuncture, aromatherapy, body coding. It's a type of energy work that can be done. We have a chiropractor. There's tapping or emotional freedom technique. You may have heard of that. That can help with a lot of emotional things that people are going through. We have healing touch, Reiki, hearing services, guided meditation, homeopathy is something that we've added. We have an herbalist, music therapy, massage therapy, psyche, sound healing, and we have a spiritual consultant, just to name a few of them. One other thing we've just added is called Eden Energy Medicine. And we actually currently have a client on ALS who has wanted to try this. And what this does is reconnects neural pathways. And she's really enjoyed that. It's really helped with her comfort. This person does have a feeding tube. She was having a lot of abdominal cramping. And through the use of homeopathy, healing touch, chiropractic care, and not anymore. No, not anymore. And the Eden Energy Medicine, she is relatively pain-free right now. It's really, really helped her a lot. We have another ALS client who also was having a lot of constipation, and with homeopathy and healing touch, that completely resolved as well, and he's very comfortable. So we have seen a lot of benefits from the modalities that we offer, and it's a good combination of, I guess, Eastern and Western medicine. We want to be able to provide the care that works for each client. It's very individualized. It's not one size fits all. So, people may want to try healing touch, someone else may not, and we can find something else that will work for that person.
Our chiropractor is Dr. Hopman, and he comes to you. All of these holistic contracted providers go to wherever you're at. And Dr. Hopman is, like I said, our chiropractor, and he goes out. He also has what's called, it's a cold therapy laser that he utilizes. And he has seen, we had an ALS client on service, and he was using that. And there was some good results, I will say. None of these things we can say will make you better. I mean, we just can't guarantee anything. However, if you're open to trying something and it can give you relief in any sort of way, we encourage it. And if you didn't want to, you didn't have to, because all the medications that you're on now, you get to stay on. We don't take anything away. If anything, we're adding more services, we're adding more support to you guys. And it just basically comes with the knowledge base with it. It was really important that Endless Journey gave back choices. I feel like, especially with this disease process, the day you're diagnosed, your whole world looks much different than it did before. And you're still a person and a human, especially to us. And we want you to realize that. And we want you to know that it's your choice, how you live. We're just walking it with you and guiding you, but also I think giving you insight, not only, clinically and holistically, but also through the work of like social work, because there's a lot of questions and a lot of things that come up. And so we want to be able there to support and stuff. So you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, and and we know that ALS affects you, but it also affects your whole family. So we really want to be there to support them as well, and to help you find all the resources that you need. And as you do become needing more support and more care, we can help navigate through those. If you have long-term care policies or different avenues to get extra support in the home, since we are a visiting service and we're not always there. If your caregiver needs more assistance, we're there to help navigate that as well.
We can, as part of the psychosocial, do you want to talk about it too? Because we
Yeah.
do like,
Well, and we have part of psychosocial is also bereavement care. So that can be anticipatory grief or grief later down the road. But our services never end. So even after you pass away, we are still here to support your family for however long that needs. We know that people don't always, you can't grieve on a timeline. Things come up at random times, and we always want to be there to support them.
we've made sure that we had a lot of things, you know, in place. We have different parts of that bereavement program. So we have an amazing woman, her name, Amy. What's her name? Katie. Sorry.
Katie's
Katie.
our,
Yeah.
she's a child life specialist. So she works primarily with children. So if there's young children, grandchildren, anybody that you're really close to, we support everybody. And it doesn't just have to be your quote unquote family. It's anybody that you consider your family, that we're there to support them.
Nice.
You guys have any questions?
So since I'm the caregiver, do I get these services too?
We get that asked. We get asked that a lot. Actually, yes. Especially, we do have a lot of spouses. You know, there's caregiver burnout. It's a lot to deal with, and
Oh,
we want to
I'm
support
so
you.
there. I'm so there.
Yeah, and so we absolutely provide those services for you as well. Yes.
I was just kidding.
Well, no, but it's
We
true
do.
because
We do.
if you're not, you know, the main thing is we appreciate the fact that you were the caregiver. And even though we are a visiting service, the goal at the end of the day is for allow us to come in and be as much of as the caregiver as we can, and allow the family members to remain the family, and to have that time and not to have to worry about all that you have been worrying about. So if we can take some of that burden from you, that's really the goal.
And if you can't provide the service that I need for certain times during this progression, you have resources and you've gone through this to help me with that, because I'm kind of blind leading the blind here. I'm that little blind dog, so I just need some additional assistance, because the doctors, they're okay, but I'm just not a real big fan of them giving me much information for this whole process. So I would like to have some help there.
Oh yeah, like Erica was saying, every step of the way we're there. And because of the stage when someone gets to hospice, like we kind of have like an in, so like Medicare, Medicaid, when we make those phone calls, or someone, if they're a VA, you know, we just make that phone call and say, this is where we're at. We need to kind of move this process along. So to get approved for stuff like that normally doesn't take what it would normally take. We also have Maria Cunningham, who's like a second mother to me, but she's our registered dietitian. So she helps, you know, if anybody's on a feeding tube or if we need anything like that, but she's also a chef. And so all of our home clients are provided meals. So we bring out, recently now, because of COVID and people cannot go grocery shopping very much, we're doing 3 to 4 meals a week. They're big meals. So they will be like lunch, breakfast, dinner, like you can just split them up. Depending on how many are in the family. But again, we want to do those things, and it's your liking or whoever's liking in the household. You know, if there's dietary modifications, we'll do that as well. But again, it's to take, you know, some of the burden off, and just so that we can help out in that aspect. So light housekeeping, you know, we've had a lot of spouses that have been helping with an ALS, and you know, we'll go out and kind of help around the house if we can. So any of those little extras that we can do, we definitely want to do while you're on service.
I got you. I got a teenager, so I boss him around for the house chores.
As you should.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was going to get a job this summer. I said, well, what if you help out around the house instead? He's going to college, so he's been helping out. So we were thankful enough to get a grant for our bathroom, and then we had all of our neighbors, meaning like 7 of them, made a deck and ramp for us for free.
Oh, that's so nice.
Oh, that was very
That
nice.
was so nice. Yeah.
That is very nice. That is very nice.
So, I mean, all these services you offer, are exquisite. I mean, it's very, very well laid out. And I do like your presentation. How many, I mean, so you offer so much. How big is your staff?
Pretty big, pretty big. We have 48 regular employees and we have 26,
23
23.
holistic contractors.
and then 50 volunteers.
That is phenomenal. And you are, like you said, you were based out of Omaha?
Yes,
And then,
and we go to Lincoln.
I'm
So
sorry,
we do go to Lincoln. It's a 60-mile radius from where our office is, so it houses all of Lincoln as well.
okay, so how often do you actually come into the Lincoln area?
As
How
much
many-
as you need us to. We've had clients in Lincoln, and if they need to see us every day, we can go out every day.
Okay, and if you wanted to establish a relationship, start with a base relationship so that you can be prepared for things on down the road. Can we initiate that? Like an introduction meeting?
Mhm. Yeah.
This makes,
Absolutely,
okay.
absolutely.
So what does that process look like? I did have somebody ask me, does that require an order from the doctor, or how does
For us
you guys
to
go
come
about?
for us to come out and meet and kind of introduce ourselves and kind of learn more about, the client and what's going on in the situation, that does not require an order. If they wanted to move forward with our services, that would require a physician's order. Now, like I said, there are guidelines with hospice as far as like if you're appropriate at the time and if you're not. Before, it used to be you were only appropriate if it was very close. Now it's much different. It's based off what your functionality is more than other things that it used to be based on. So those are all things that we kind of take into consideration, and also the physician that you're working with. So I mean that plays a part in that as well. We know most of the physicians though, because like I said, we've gotten a lot of referrals from the ALS Foundation.
So with you being the owner, what was your driving force to get in this business?
To do hospice?
Yes,
Well, I was in school at K-State for business and marketing, and I had a woman, so I didn't want to serve tables anymore. I became an aide at a long-term care facility down the road. I had a woman that I was taking care of that had Alzheimer's. She was amazing. Her daughters lived out of town, so we were like her family. They put her on hospice services when she was getting close to passing, and I just felt like it could have been a better experience for her. I came in for my shift one day and found out that she had passed, and the staff was so busy the night before that they really couldn't sit with her, and the hospice was not there, and the daughters didn't know. They didn't have really good communication with the hospice. And I left my shift that day and decided I was going to be a hospice nurse, and I was going to change end of life care.
all right, well, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you.
Well, it's always kind of nice to know what the driving force and a little bit of story of an individual that, propels them in or, gets them involved in this line of work, because it is a very delicate kind of work. I experienced hospice with my mother when I handled her affairs, and we had a group of folks out of Missouri, because that's where I was from then, and they were excellent. And I believe take the same type of approach that they did, even though she wasn't in immediate need of hospice. They developed that relationship, and I think that's very important.
What's up?
Go ahead.
Yeah, it is important. It's definitely important. It's important to care for others and to let them know that they still matter and that their life mattered today and it's going to matter tomorrow and it's going to matter, and we want them to live until they take their last breath. And sometimes I feel that the medical model takes that away. And so it was my passion and dream to give that back.
And you're out of Old Mill, is that right?
We are.
Okay, because I just Googled and so I have your
Okay.
number or whatever to follow up.
Okay.
And tell me everybody's names again.
Oh, sorry.
I'm Sherry.
Okay.
I'm Melanie.
Uh-huh.
And I'm Erica.
Okay, thank you.
And I will send a follow-up email to everybody on the call
Okay.
with their information. And if it's okay with you guys, I'll just send, your address and your
Oh,
main
yeah.
phone number and stuff. And then I'll include the form that you sent me with all the services that you talked about.
We're a dual-sided company. So the nonprofit side, we're planning on having hospice houses soon, and a retreat center. And so that part of the company, the nonprofit side, funds all of the holistic services. So, and all the meals that get brought out and everything like that.
That's amazing.
Yes, that's quite extensive amount of services that you do.
Well, in our opinion, everybody should get those services.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, not everybody feels that way. So.
I know. It's a good thing I'm the owner.
Yeah,
So you kind of mentioned that something about veterans, but you work with veterans and
Yes.
that's not an issue. Okay, that was a question that came up.
Oh, yes. We have an amazing veterans program. We are a part of the We Honor Veterans program, but ours, the We Salute You, I feel like we go above and beyond, just to try and make sure that all of their affairs are in place. Anything that they may have needed before, we definitely do the pinning and we do the recognition. But to me, it's much more than that. And so, we've had a lot of veterans, unfortunately, that didn't have family. Nobody ever dies alone. So we do everything that we can do to make sure that their end of life is just as important as everybody else's. So,
And we have a good working relationship with the VA as well. So we have people we can call when we need to get things done.
Okay, great.
Not calling 100 people.
Something I've heard about from other hospice groups is that if you were to come on services and then after so much time, there's not a lot going on or there's not a lot, happening in progression, that you can graduate. I don't know if that's the right term, graduate from hospice and then be off for a while and then go back on. What is your guys's take, or what is your approach for somebody going on and back off, or how does that work?
it really depends on the disease process. Like I was saying, a lot has changed now. So because of the diagnosis, and you take the average lifespan when somebody is diagnosed, okay?
Mhm.
So we are hoping that we get a long time that the person feels well. ALS typically is not a diagnosis that ever graduates from hospice, just because they will continuously always be appropriate, even if once they get to a certain point and they're appropriate, we've never graduated anybody off of it, but people have stayed on with us for quite some time, and that's okay too. So again, like I said, it's not the same as like if you were to have someone with Alzheimer's, or if you were to have COPD or congestive heart failure. Something like a stage 4 cancer and ALS are very similar in the government's eyes, because they feel that a stage 4 is terminal and you will die from that. You can stay on hospice as long as you need to. It's the same thing with ALS or like a Huntington's or something like that. Very similar kind of disease process. And they encourage that support. Medicare, Medicaid, private insurances are now encouraging more support. So they are encouraging getting people on sooner. And that's why they kind of made it a little bit easier, the criteria of getting someone on for ALS.
Great.
Okay. Well, I personally like to take a proactive approach to everything that I do. So therefore, I'm glad you said that, because even though I feel like I'm some distance from my last breath, but heck, we never know when that might be. But the short of the long is, I would, definitely want to be interested in getting that established with my wife Sue and your establishment, taking a deeper look at that, at least to establish a baseline.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's where my head's at.
Name the time and place and we'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, I'll reach out to you after I get the info from Emily. Okay.
Sure.
You can have your cat call them, give them a call.
Yeah, Ruby's kind of hard to understand. But, If you get a lot of meows, that means she wants it.
Yeah. I have a schnauzer that kind of acts like my cat. When she wants something, she either wants food or she wants out. She comes and says hi. Everybody tells me I need a cat. I'm like, I have a dog that acts like a cat. I don't need a cat.
I got a cat that acts like a dog.
See, so we're just the opposite.
Yeah, when I whistle, she comes. When I call for her, she comes.
Yeah, no, mine does it. If it's not food or it has to go out, forget it.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
Well, we appreciate you letting us come and talk about our services and what we do and our, the mission behind what we do. So we appreciate it.
Absolutely. I want it to be, when we do set it up, just know it can be a convenient time when you're already up in the area so that you could, cut your overhead a little bit. I know you've got travel expenses.
That does not, we don't even think about stuff like that, but I appreciate you thinking of us, but that's okay. She's going to be in there tomorrow.
He's a thrifty guy. He's going to ask you for a coupon any minute. They call me the coupon girl.
Yeah,
Does anyone else have any questions for them about any of the services or the process or anything anyone has on their mind?
Yeah, my dad was wondering, how do you guys work with like insurance? Like, is it covered?
Mm-hmm. It's covered 100%. So depending on if you have a private insurance, if you have Medicare, if you have Medicaid, we bill all of them. But even if you don't, we've had clients on service before that may have been applying for something. We take them on pro bono. If we're able to bill, great, we'll bill. If we're not, then we don't. It's, to us, it's not about the billing. It's about making sure that all of our clients are taken care of, and that's a burden that we don't want you to have to think about. So we walk you through that step. So what insurance do you have, Keith?
He has Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Perfect. It's covered. They pay like 75%, and we are one of the hospices that do not charge the families that 25% difference. So they pay between 75 and 80%, and then there's supposed to be an out-of-pocket for the family, but we don't. We just take what we can get politely from Blue Cross and call it a day.
that's awesome. Well, you can't ask for more than that.
No.
Oh, you can't.
No, that's fantastic.
Incredible. Okay, well, if no one has any more questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up for this evening. If you think of questions, you can certainly email them to me and I can forward them on, or we can have a follow-up conversation. Or, I mean, you guys are welcome to give them a call too and ask your questions or set up a meeting or whatever works for you guys.
Yeah, Emily?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know me. I do have another question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so, and I'll make this the last one, hopefully. How many clients do you currently see now, and how long have you been working with them?
How many ALS clients do we have on service?
Yes,
Is that what you asked? I did.
curious.
3. Three.
Okay, and how long have you been working with them?
Well, the one, it's been we're trying to decide HIPAA and what we can say and what we can't say.
I'll tell you
I
what,
will tell you that we've had ALS clients on service well over a year. The 3 that we have on now are, I'm trying.
They're fairly new.
The
They've
one
been
that
with
she
us-
was talking about, I think she's been on for
4 months,
four-ish
maybe.
months. And if you want to know the honest, she's better now than she was when we took her on service. So bottom line, we met her and we saw her at the hospital. They brought her home and she's better now than she was. And the other 2, I would say about the same. Wouldn't you say about the same? So
yeah, the reason for the question, here's the reason for the question. There's a lot, I know you deal with a lot of other people with different types of diseases. They go through the journey as they transition. And ALS is kind of a funky disease because it affects everybody differently. It's not like a typical thing that's kind of hey, you get it this kind of way, it's going to progress like this. And I guess what I was looking for, and I believe you've answered it through most of your discussion, is gaining that experience on what you see and current, new things that you do see, and how you deal with that with the caregivers and with the patient, and learning kind of the ins and outs of this thing, because we're all something new. I mean, every day something new seems to affect me.
You did mention, I will circle back to that graduating thing, and I will tell you that there have been times when experimental drugs have come out and a client has decided that they were going to do that for curative, and then they came off service. So that was not here. I've taken care of personally over hundreds of ALS clients. So I think it was like, it's been a minute, but it's been a long time since this has happened. But if something like that happens and you decide that you want to do it, we encourage that. So if they came out with something that was experimental, that they wanted to try to cure the disease process, unfortunately, they just don't let us keep people on service. We can do chemo and radiation for cancer clients if it's for palliative. If they decide that they want to cure the disease process, unfortunately, then they have to come off services. So that would be, I guess, it's not really graduating. It would kind of be just revoking services, and that's up to the client as well. So you have that right at any time, and we stand behind any decision that you make. So.
All right, thank you. You answered my question. Thank you.
Okay.
I came up with one more question myself too. Rick, we're two peas in a pod here tonight. So is it true that before you were to go on hospice services, you should obtain certain equipment, mainly a power chair and a communication device? We've heard lots of times that would need to happen before you would go on to hospice.
It depends on what type of chair and what type of communication device you're looking into. Some of them are very, very, very expensive, like in the $50,000 range. And if you're looking at something like that, absolutely. We encourage you to go through the Medicare or the Medicaid process and get that taken care of. Again, though, there are phone calls that we can make to speed up that process. So whereas before it may have taken somebody a couple months, if we make a couple phone calls, hopefully we can speed that up to the distributor where you're ordering it from, and then we can get them on service. We actually had a Huntington's client at a facility that did that, and so she really wanted the chair. The chair was like $45,000, and we unfortunately just don't have all of that money in our nonprofit to do for that right now. But other little things we don't mind paying for. It just depends on what it is. And we fixed communication devices before when they came on service and they couldn't get it fixed. We paid for stuff like that. So we encourage that you get that. Sometimes people have the equipment, sometimes they don't. We have our own equipment. It's not motorized though. We do have some, like one of our clients, she still kind of uses a motorized scooter. It's literally like a motorized scooter. So it's not one of those fancy chairs that you're talking about. We have some of those motorized scooters of our own that we could give a client as well if we needed to. So like I said, it just depends on the chair and what they would need it for.
Okay. And, ALS in the Heartland continues to provide services alongside you. And so if there is something like that, we have a loaner closet too. And obviously we're willing to give and partner as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. We've gotten a lot of donations from families as well. We have a ramp that's in storage that we've actually used for a couple ALS clients, and now it's back in storage. Same thing with the trapeze bars that hang down. Those have been donated. We've had quite a few things that have been donated, so we have our own little collection to help out any way that we can as well. So
great.
Sure. Great call. Good job, Emily.
Well, let's give the credit to them. I just made the call and said, can you talk to us? And it's been a great conversation. So I really appreciate your guys' time.
Yes. Excellent. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna